Most hospitality founders would not describe themselves as bottlenecks. They describe themselves as hands-on, involved, present, standard bearers, committed, all of which sounds like virtues, all of which the industry celebrates as evidence of a founder who really cares about their business. But if everything in your business has to pass through you before it can happen, you are by definition a bottleneck. It doesn't matter how well you do the things that you're holding on to, the pattern is the pattern. And the reason it matters isn't that it slows the business down, although it does. The reason it matters is that a bottleneck doesn't just delay decisions, it shapes the team around it. Over time, it produces exactly the team the founder is often complaining about. The one that can't be trusted to make decisions, the one that always brings everything back to the founder, the one that seems from the outside to lack initiative. The team wasn't born that way, it was made that way by the founder. This video is about how to spot the pattern in yourself before it does any more damage and how to start unwinding it. Welcome to the Lead Well channel, where we explore the inner world of leadership, well-being, and what it means to build a business and a life that doesn't break you. My name's Trevor. I run a multi-award winning restaurant and cocktail bar, but I didn't come from a hospitality background. I built the business from the ground up, learning as I went, figuring it out in real time. And this is a practical video, diagnostic. I want to give you 10 specific signs that you might be functioning as a bottleneck in your own business without even knowing it, named clearly enough that you'll recognize your own behavior rather than nodding along in the abstract. Then I'll talk about why the pattern is self-reinforcing, which is what makes it so hard to see and even harder to break. And at the end, I'll give you one specific thing that you can do this week to start shifting it. I've lived both versions of this. I can promise you the shift is possible. Not instant, not clean, but possible, and it's absolutely worth the work. Here's what makes the bottleneck pattern almost impossible to see from the inside. It looks like a virtue. You're the person who fixes things. You're the person the team comes to. You're the person who knows what needs to happen. All of that feels like leadership. It looks like leadership. It gets celebrated as leadership in the industry, by your team, and often by you. But if that pattern has become the way that your business actually runs, if every question, every decision, every operational hiccup ends up on your plate, then something has quietly shifted. You're not leading the team, you're carrying it. And the difference between the two, invisible in any single week, is enormous over months and years. Let me give you a small example from my time at Occo Rocco. For far too long, I was the person who came to fixing the Wi-Fi, the card machines, anything that went wrong operationally that involved a bit of technical troubleshooting. My team knew that if something broke, they called me, I'd come in, sort it, and go back to what I was doing. It felt efficient in the moment. I was nearby anyway, so it saved them the stress of trying to work it out themselves. What I didn't see for a long time was what it was doing to the team. They never learned how to fix any of it. They never developed the capacity to handle it themselves. They just learned that if it broke, Trevor came in, which meant that every Wi-Fi outage or card machine glitch, no matter how small, required me, which meant I couldn't fully step away, which meant my time was being consumed by things that were absolutely not founder work. I only shifted it when I decided deliberately to stop being the answer. I showed them how, I made them do it once with me watching, then twice on their own with me on the phone, and then on their own without me involved at all. And within a few weeks, the Wi-Fi and the card machine problems stopped touching me. They were being handled by the people who were actually there when it happened. That's the small version of the pattern. The bigger version is much more revealing. For years, I did the rota myself. I told myself I did it because I had the best overview of the business. I knew who worked well together. I knew what shifts were bigger than they looked. I knew where the cover needed to sit. And all of that was partly true, but what was more true was that I hadn't taught anybody else how to do it, and I hadn't handed it over because it felt like too much of an important task to let go of. The rota is a critical piece of any hospitality business. It determines labor cost, it determines service quality, it determines team morale, it touches everything. So keeping it in my hands felt responsible, felt like control, it felt like leadership. And when I finally handed it over to management, two things happened that I didn't expect. The first was the amount of time it freed up, not just the hours spent doing it, but the hours spent thinking about it, the background load that had been running in my head constantly. All of that was suddenly available for actual founder work. The second thing was more interesting. The rota got better, not the same, better, because it was being done by the people who were actually in the building day to day, seeing the dynamics up close, spotting who was tired and who was thriving, making small adjustments that only someone in the room could make the real insight. My rota, done from the office, had been an approximation of what the business needed. Their rota, done from the floor, was the real thing. The lesson from that isn't that I was bad at the rota. The lesson is that the rota didn't need me. And the same thing is true of most of the tasks a hospitality founder is holding on to out of a belief that only they can do them properly. They can be done better by people who are closer to the work, if those people are trained, trusted, and given the space to do it. I'll put a link up here of a past video of why fixing your team won't work until you fix yourself first, up on the top of the screen. Now, the diagnostic part of the video. 10 specific signs that you might be a bottleneck without knowing it. Sit with each one honestly, don't skim. The point of this section is recognition, not agreement. Sign number 1, the team calls you first for problems that they could solve themselves. The Wi-Fi, the card machine, the delivery driver at the wrong door, the customer complaint that could have been handled by a manager. If your phone rings for these things, you've trained your team to bring them to you. Sign number 2, you do the work that isn't yours because you don't trust anyone else to do it properly. The rota, the ordering, the social media, the specific supplier relationships, all of it kept because letting it go feels like a risk. All of it slowly consuming time that you should be spending on the work that only you can do. Sign 3, you know the answer to almost every operational question before it's asked. Not because you're brilliant, because everything has to run through you before it can happen. So the information all lives within you and nowhere else in the business. Sign 4, you feel physically uncomfortable when you're not in the building. The team's ability to handle things without you has never been tested at scale because you've never been out of the range long enough to test it. So the discomfort is chronic and unresolved. Sign number 5, your team asks permission for things that they don't need permission for. That's a signal that you've historically punished autonomy and overridden decisions after the fact. So they've learned that the safest route is to check first every single time. Sign number 6, this is an important one. You get frustrated at your team for not thinking for themselves and then override them when they do. That's the double bind that keeps the pattern locked in. The team is told to take initiative and then punished when the initiative doesn't match what the founder would have done, so they stop. Sign number 7, you can't remember the last time a significant decision was made in the business without your input. Small ones and big ones, if everything runs through you, you're the bottleneck by definition. Sign number 8, your holidays are interrupted. Consistently, every time, not because a genuine emergency arose, but because normal operational stuff happened and nobody knew how to handle it without you. Sign number 9, you know that if you stepped back for 2 weeks, the business would suffer. Not go under, but suffer. Standards would drop, wheels wobble, team stress up. That's not a badge of importance, that's a sign of dependency. Sign number 10, you describe yourself as hands-on, involved, or a stickler for detail, when what you actually mean is that you can't let go of anything. The language of virtue disguising the pattern of control. If more than 3 of these landed for you, you're a bottleneck in your business. If more than 5 landed, you've been one for a long time. There's nothing wrong with recognizing it. There is something wrong with pretending it isn't happening though. Before I go any further, I want to mention the Lead Well Sprint. If you're a hospitality founder who is carrying more than most people around you realize that and you know something has to change, this is the entry point to working with me properly. It's 4 weeks, 1 hour a week, focused work with founders who are ready to start rebuilding the foundation underneath everything that they've built. It starts with a free call so that we can talk through what you're carrying and whether the sprint is a right fit. If any of this is landing for you, head to the website, the link's in the description. Let's get back to the video. Here's the thing that makes this pattern so difficult to break. It reinforces itself constantly. Let me walk you through the loop because seeing it clearly is what starts to loosen its grip. You are the person that the team brings things to because you've always been that person. The team has never really developed the muscles to handle those things without you. So when you try to step back, the things get handled badly or not at all, or handled in a way that you would have done differently. You see the poor handling as evidence that the team can't be trusted. So you step back in and take it over again, which reinforces to the team that you're the person to bring things to, which prevents them from developing the muscles, which means that when you try to step back in again, they still can't handle it, which reinforces the belief that they can't be trusted, which locks you into being the bottleneck for yet another cycle. That loop is not a team failure, it's a founder pattern. The team is behaving exactly as they have been trained to behave, and the only way to break it is for the founder to deliberately do less, deliberately teach more, deliberately tolerate the awkward middle period where the handover is happening and things don't yet run smoothly. That period is uncomfortable. It looks worse than the bottleneck version because things aren't running perfectly and you can feel the pull to step back in and fix that. But that discomfort is the price of the shift. And on the other side of it is the team that can actually think for itself and a founder who can actually lead rather than just carry. I'm going to put a link up the top again to another one of my videos, which is why the best founders can do everything, but they choose to do very little. It's a good video. I'll put it up at the top. I want to give you something specific to do this week. Not another framework, not another concept to consider, but a practical action step. Some of you will remember I've talked before on this channel about the energy leak tracker. It's one of the tools that I use with every founder I work with, and it's the perfect starting point for the specific pattern that this video is about. I've also done a video, which I'll link at the top here, for how to find where your energy is going and how to take it back. It's kind of in tune with the next part of this video. The tracker asks you to know where your energy is going day by day, what drains you, what could have been avoided, delayed, or delegated. Over a week, what emerges is a pattern, not just where your energy is going, but specifically what is running through you that shouldn't be. Do the tracker for 1 week with this video in mind, and every time something shows up that felt like a drain, ask yourself one specific question. Was that mine to do? Not was that important, not was that necessary, not was that something that the business needed. Was that mine? If the honest answer is no, or not really, or only because I've made it mine over time, then you found something to hand over. The Wi-Fi call that came to you at 9 at night, the rota question that you spent 20 minutes on, the supplier decision the manager could have made. Each one of those is a small opportunity to start unwinding the bottleneck. You don't need to unwind all of them at once. You don't need a restructure. You don't need a big meeting with a team where you announce the new operation model. You just need to identify the ones that shouldn't have been yours and then deliberately and specifically teach the person who should be doing them how to do them. Not this week necessarily, next week or the week after, and gradually one task at a time, the shape of your week will start to change. That's how you stop being the bottleneck. One honest question, one handover at a time. Most hospitality founders would not describe themselves as bottlenecks, but most of them are. The pattern hides behind the language of commitment and involvement and hands-on leadership, and it costs the founder their time and their team their capability. The version worth being is not the founder that everyone brings things to, it's the founder who has built a team capable of handling most things on their own. That founder leads, the other one carries. If more than 3 of those signs landed today, you already know where to start. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and a subscribe. It helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps people like us find the content that really matters. And as always, I'd love to remind you that you matter too. Don't forget that.